All right, guys, so we've got our Gladiator right where we want it. Okay, so it's not exactly where we want it, but we'd much rather be out on a trail somewhere enjoying this thing, putting it through its paces. But we're gonna be there soon. Now it's time to install our axles, and to install our axles, we brought in a very special guest. So we have Currie from Currie Enterprises to help us get these underneath our Jeep. So thanks for joining us, Casey. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
This is exciting.
So let's talk about these axles that we chose, because these things are pretty extravagant. We have your HD60s here, so tell us why these are gonna fit our application great.
So our HD60s are the optimal package for a tire size of up to a 38-inch tire. Now, one of the big benefits is for some, they don't have to change their wheels. It uses a stock bolt pattern. Another big benefit is the fact that it's a Rubicon width, so it's 68 inches wide. So now for most guys running a Sport or Sahara, they're not gonna have to worry about tires rubbing on the frame. And some of the optimal benefits is the 35 spline inner axles that are 1480 in the front and are 40 spline flange axles in the back, both chromoly, giving you massive strength.
Yeah, so these are a way steps ahead of our 44s. You know, we're not going to have any problems going places on these.
Yeah, whether it's mud, sand, dirt, or rock, you can go anywhere. And on top of that, driving down the highway at 75 miles an hour, whatever the legal limit is, you're going to drive down getting the most fuel economy you can get and without any noises.
So let's get these things unboxed and see what they look like.
You got it.
So we started at the front, started to unbox our front axle, and then we got our rear axle all the way unboxed, and this thing up on the jack stand's ready to go in, and this is where we're gonna start. So Casey, this thing is out of the box. This thing's really rugged, and there's a lot of cool parts here. And I think one of my favorite parts is this is basically bolt in.
This is bolt in, ready to go. So the cool part is now you're using the stock bolt pattern. You're also using the stock backing plates and the stock rotors and calipers. So brake feel is all gonna be the same as stock, but you're getting the performance of the 40 spline chromoly axle. It's also, you know, with the Currie housing and the 3.5-inch tubes, it's almost twice as strong as stock. And on top of that, we got the 60 ring and pinion, and we have an electric locker, obviously 40 spline. Another feature that we do is we have the raised track bar hold. So we have the stock location, but we also do the raise. So that way for basically roll center, you're getting the absolute most out of the Jeep for stability and comfort of driving down the road.
Kind of an important feature is when you're putting one of these in a Rubicon, you don't want to utilize your factory rocker switches and kind of that system. And can you allude to why that's important?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've learned over the years is the fact that the more power the locker has, the faster and harder it's going to engage, which for some of us, that's not as important, but for me, our biggest concern is making sure that locker gets 100% engagement. So having as many volts as possible will get you that locker to engage. Now, what we've noticed on the stock Rubicon lockers is that basically it's at the minimum requirement for the locker to engage. So a thin wire, a wire that isn't crimped 100%, a wire that's just not 100% is gonna get you below the optimal wire, basically power voltage, which is gonna get you a half engagement and a broken locker. So for us, utilizing some sort of aftermarket switch or even the stock auxiliary switches get you that power that you need to make sure that this locker is engaging every time optimally.
So before we get our axle in and everything installed, I wanted to show you guys a little bit of difference and where all the strength in this thing comes from. So we have our factory 44 axle here, and then this is our 1-ton axle. So tell us about kind of where the strength comes from and what makes this so much better.
So first things first, it's chromoly. So the material itself is a just much stronger material that allows for some movement and basically allows the thing to have basically the ultimate strength. And besides that, obviously going from the stock spline to a 40 spline, it's got much more spline. So where the stock axle has a tendency to basically twist right at the splines and then shear itself off, the strength and size of this just gives it, I mean, more than double the strength. So it is absolutely a much larger piece besides having a much better quality material.
Yeah, and these things are certainly going to give us some peace of mind when we're out wheeling the Gladiator. So let's get these brakes, all our brake kit on, get these slid in, and let's get it in the Jeep.
Got it.
So we got the rear end all installed and buttoned up for the most part. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the airbags after we get everything else done and just make it a little bit easier. But this thing was bolt in, like.
Yeah. It really does bolt in pretty easy. One thing that I would recommend is when it comes near the end of the installs, I don't tighten any bolts or put Loctite on any bolts until it's at ride height. When you're putting all the suspension, these joints basically could be under bind. So at full droop, if you tighten everything up, when it goes to ride height, at that point, these bushings would basically be bound up. So having it neutralized at ride height is gonna give you the optimal ride for up travel and for down travel. So for me, getting it at ride height and then from there, torquing everything down is the best way to get that suspension and the rear end to work best together.
Now that this is done, let's move to the front and focus on that and get the front axle installed.
You got it.
Man, you know, we've really been getting after it. The front axle's in this thing, and this is the Currie HD60. You know, you get to see it in its full glory, guys. And so tell us some of the benefits and key features of this thing.
So one of the signature Currie moves that my dad and my uncles designed was the rotated cover. So with the rotated cover, when you can really see it on camera now, we have a hardened skid plate on the bottom, but this way, when you get into those nasty rocks and you smash your rock, instead of smashing into the bottom of the cover and the bottom of the casting, you're gonna hit this hardened skid plate. Now making it so it'll slide up and over the rock and you're not gonna get hung up on anything. So that's something that my dad and them, it's been over 20 years that they designed the rotated cover. Some of the key benefits is 3/8 wall tubing. This front end utilizes a stock inner C style that we took and reinforced and made our own that is absolutely massive. So the inner Cs are, I mean, they're literally as big as the 110 inner Cs. They do incorporate an OEM style ball joint, so that way you can utilize all the stock outers. So this way the cost savings is unreal because now you're using everything that is basically O-ring replacement. Now, tie rod, we did one of the rock crawler tie rods on this, which has to be the straight bar. Because of the cover being so large, you can't do one with the bent bar. So having the straight bar on here makes it so it can turn all the way and the steering stabilizer will bolt right on. But this is a complete bolt-in, plug-and-play deal. There is no having to cut, no grind. You just literally unbolt everything, put everything back in. Like this right now today, we didn't even do adjustable control arms. I would recommend it, makes everything a little bit easier, but as you can see, you literally can use all stock geometry parts if needed.
Thanks again. If you guys are interested in any Currie products, head over to summitracing.com and check out the full selection from Currie Enterprises. We have all sorts of fun stuff for you guys. So thanks again, Casey. I appreciate it, and maybe we'll see you out in the trails.
Absolutely.
So until next time, guys, I'm Justin with Summit Racing. See you later, Casey, and we'll see you guys later.